What's up, guys? It's your boy Josh Showtime's Fight Phone. My man Josh Valles, and we are here to finish our recap of Rider Season 2024. And look, we have to talk about the main event. We talked about Jared Anderson. We talked about Pitbull Cruz and two big upsets that we didn't expect. But then you could possibly say this was probably the biggest upset, that not necessarily off of results because the favorite won, but just off of performance, which was Israel versus Terrence Bud, pound for pound #1, Crawford. And if you ask anybody about this fight beforehand, everybody thought Crawford by stoppage. He's been on a 10-fight stoppage streak. He's been knocking everybody out. He obviously just knocked out Errol Spence, who everybody thought was his biggest test. And this is going against a 154-pounder, a true blood 154-pounder, not a guy who bumped up a guy who's a 154-pounder, clearly bigger, clearly stronger, who only has 10 fights, but 300 plus amateur fights. And that's, I guess, what the Europeans be doing, which it honestly is turning out to look very good, because these guys who's having 300 plus amateur backgrounds have came out elite. So it might be something to that madness and method. I think it's dumb for Americans to do it because you get paid more, obviously, going professional. But as far as results go, it's been looking really, really good. But yet and still, what did you think before the fight? Because I thought it was weird, them asking the promoter, "Is that my dog?" All right, cool. That was it. But have you heard? Did you hear about what's the guy name? Your Highness. What's his name? Your Highness.
Your Majesty.
Your Majesty. That guy. Is it me, or was it weird that they asked him what was what he think was going to happen? What was his predictions for the fight? I thought that was weird.
I mean, he's a promoter. At the end of the day, that's like asking Dana White, "Hey, what do you think is going to happen before this fight?"
Yeah, but Dana won't tell you. Before the fight, he doesn't tell you who he thinks is going to win. He always says afterwards, he'd be like, "Yeah, I had John Jones winning, but he lost." He'll do that kind of thing, but he won't come out bat saying, "Oh, John is going to win." It's just weird for business.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. I thought it was cool to give him the insight and so forth. You said this last episode. I felt like they were giving everybody their little 2-minute insight on the fight, and little things about the fight that matter to them. No, I thought that was fine. Like I said, it was a great production. Overall, the fight before, I was thinking a wipeout from Terence Crawford. Granted, to your point, he has over 350 plus amateur fights. I don't think people understand how important that plays in the pro game when you have that many amateur fights. Especially when you mentioned this just now, when you fight overseas, you're fighting all over the world. You're fighting different types of fighters, different types of styles. Ironically, same styles that you don't get to see until you get to the pros. And with these fighters like the Lomas, Israel, the 300 plus fights, and then in their 10th fight, fighting a guy like Terence Crawford, that lets you know on the front end that and he's a world champion. This is definitely a guy who took the fast track to get there, and he's lived up to the expectations and the hype so far.
Yeah, and also you got to think, if you're fighting 300 times, now I'm not going to sit there and say there's no fear, because there's always some type of fear and anxiety when you're competing. But when you do it 300 times, you ain't fearing no man. You don't give a damn if it's Terrence Bud Crawford. You don't care if it's Muhammad Ali. You don't really care. It's 300 fights. Now, obviously, it's not going to be 300 different people, but who cares? You've been in that thing 300 times. And then I'm against very good fighters. You're not going to be intimidated by somebody coming up in weight saying that they're better than you. And then also, not to mention, I already said, foreign people don't give a damn about Americans. We like to live in this bubble where we think that we're America, we're the best, and this, that, and the third. And that's fine to have that American pride. However, other countries don't give a damn about that. They don't care. You think in Europe they really hear about Terence Crawford like that? No, not really. They're not worried about that. So him coming in with that confidence that he's the better guy, that he's the stronger guy, that he can beat him. You could feel that. You felt that in the first few rounds. Not to say he came in there over aggressive or anything like that, but he fought like he belonged the entire time. And when Bud gets to the point of figuring you out, normally it's over. That point never happened. And I'm before we break down the actual fight, I want to know, how did you score and did you agree with the scorecards?
I agreed with the 115, 113 scorecards because although I do believe that it was a close fight, and I got to give it to Israel, he really did his thing. He was a very active fighter and definitely proved that he belonged in the ring with Terrence Crawford. It was clear to me that Terrence Crawford was just the better fighter and controlling the rounds a little bit more. And when he was exchanging, um, it just looked like he was winning the exchanges. So I didn't mind the scorecard of 115, 113. Heck of a fight, super competitive, but I do think Terrence Crawford got the right decision there.
I agree. I had a 115, 113 as well. I was cool with that. I was honestly even cool with 116, 112 Crawford. I thought that was fine. But that's probably to me that, yeah, I know. I think that's the extent I would go. That I wouldn't go any more. I think that the first few rounds were very close. When you have inactivity and like not much damaging shots land, it's kind of leave it to the eye of the beholder. So it's very very difficult to necessarily just say, oh, it's for sure Crawford. Oh, it's for sure Israel. So I was fine with that. I thought that it was a close fight. I'm not with Shakur Stevenson and some of these guys who try to act like it was a wash and saying like, oh, it was easily Terrence Crawford. That wasn't even that close. I don't know how you watch that fight and don't think that fight was close.
No.
If you look at the punch stats, the fight was close. If you even look at the eyeball test, I mean, brother, people want to say, oh, Israel eye was swollen, Terrence Crawford eye was swollen. Like both guys.
Israel was in front of Terrence Crawford all night. He didn't go anywhere all night. Yeah.
Like, and some people say, oh, well, Terrence Crawford hurt him. Yes, Terrence Crawford hurt him a couple times.
Yeah, it's called boxing. You get hurt.
Boxing. Like, and also, yes, he hurt him. He didn't drop him. He didn't hurt him enough for him to like literally like for it to be a standing to 8 count. Like he hurt him, sure, and he tied him up like a smart fighter does, and he won those rounds that he hurt him. But he didn't consistently hurt him. He didn't hurt him every round. He didn't hurt him every time he landed. And the thing is, Crawford was getting caught a lot. He was getting hit a lot. So I mean, like, and then the people want to also bring up, so this is also boxing. It don't have to necessarily land for it to count as something. And then for the boxers who say you don't know nothing about boxing, thinking that fight was close, bullshit. There's plenty of boxers who box who also thought the fight was close. So stop acting like it's I boxed before, so I know more. Cool. There's other boxers who agreed the fight was close. But yet and still, when you watch the fight and you're scoring fights for the judges, you're still taught the damage matters. Damage matters even if you block a punch. I've seen in MMA, I've seen it in boxing, where a person blocked a punch and still got dropped. Why? Because it still lands. It still hurts. Like, are we forgetting this? Like, what? Callum Smith blocked a bunch of punches from Canelo. Look at his arms after the fight. He had knots all over it. These things still hurt. They still do damage. So even if they were somewhat blocked or somewhat rolled it, it did some kind of damage. It still landed, and you still have to factor that in. Terrence Crawford did excellent work. I thought he did really good body work. I felt like when they were in the pocket, I thought he did his best work in the pocket. I felt like when it was outside, I felt like that's where he kind of was. He never got picked apart, but that's where he was getting landed on. Like I feel like that's where Israel had his best shots. Is when he was when it was we were at distance and he was able to hit him with those twos. And this is one of the first fights I can say that I've seen from Crawford where when he went southpaw, he didn't do as well. He was getting landed on a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was a competitive fight, action packed. Israel was right, like you said, right there the entire fight coming through. I thought Terrence Crawford did a really good job though with just moving around the ring, and creating that distance for him to allow himself to get those shots off, if that makes sense. I think that even though it was more so of Israel following him around and then Crawford kind of just making his way and and exchanging, and like I said, winning the exchanges. So, yeah, I don't think it was a wash at all. There were definitely some rounds where I said, "Wow, yeah, he lost that round,"
It
or
was
to
like,
myself,
and the crazy thing, it was like towards the end of the fight. It was like I think rounds 8 or 9 where I was like, "Hey, Crawford might need to step it up a little bit. He might be losing his fight." Because I was like, Israel's starting to get him, and I'm like, is he like about to pull through and like start winning these last few rounds? But Crawford does what Crawford does, and he's a dog. That 12th round was important, and he came out that thing swinging. And
yeah,
I
he
don't
did.
know if Israel thought he had the fight in the bag because his corner kind of made it seem like it. And I don't know if he thought that he could just eke it out instead of having to like forcibly win that round. Because realistically, if he wins that round, I think it's a tie. I think it's a majority draw,
Yeah,
and then we have to
yeah.
do a rematch.
Yeah, I don't think that Terrence Crawford felt too confident towards those championship rounds. And you saw it in not only his demeanor in the ring, but in his corner. His corner did not give him any confidence that he was winning the fight by a
Which was
large
actually,
margin at all. So I
yeah,
think Terrence Crawford also felt the pressure from his team as well, which, we saw what you said, what Terrence Crawford does, which is close out fights. But
yeah,
he definitely came out in that 12th round with an edge of no matter what, I'm going to just try to close the show as best as I can. And I think we could appreciate that as boxing fans.
absolutely. And I'll ask you first before I give my opinion. What did you think about his power? Obviously, going up in weight, this is the highest weight he's ever been. Israel took the punches like a champ. I felt like he was hurt a little bit. However, I feel like if he hit him like at 147, and that was a 147 pounder, this fight probably would have been over in the 11th, 10th, or 12th round because he hit him with some good shots. But bigger guys can take bigger impact. What did you think about his power?
Yeah, he should not go up to 168 and fight Canelo. That's what I think about that. I think 154 to 160 max, I think is a safe spot. If he goes up to 168, the only thing I'm not saying that he looked weak at 154. I'm just saying that whether this is just a coincidence that this boxer, Israel, is just one of those ones that 5 fights from now we're gonna say, yo, that Terrence Crawford win against Israel looks great because he's one of the champions at 154 now. He's doing all the right things, right? But I feel like Terrence Crawford, he just looked like the punches looked faster and they looked like he hits harder. But to your point, I think the bigger fighter just absorbs punches better. So we were just seeing that. But but because of that, I don't know. I think 160 is the most he should go. If he meets Canelo at a catch weight, sure. But other than that, no.
I think Canelo's obviously a terrible idea. I think Terrence has the power to transfer at 154. I think he just fought an elite fighter that we don't know is elite. When you fight those elite, they can take a punch, and he's one of those guys. I feel like if he fought most of the 154 pounders, I think he would have got him out of there personally. Whether it was via knockout or just by just getting your head pummeled in by so many punches. But he just fought a different breed of a guy at 154, and Israel might be the second best 154 pounder in the world. We just don't know it yet. So I'm gonna give him that. But at 168, Canelo can take a punch. He's fought Triple G, and he took Triple G's punches flush. Terrence ain't hurting him, and if you ain't hurt Canelo, you good luck beating him. That means you gonna have to run for 36 minutes, and I don't know if Terrence can take Canelo's punches. It's a different weight class, different weight. I mean, different puncher. He's knocked out heavier guys. He's knocked out Kovalev. I mean, like it's a different beast fighting somebody that's that heavier than you. So I would say obviously no, and I'm a person who was wanting the fight. I don't think that fight should happen anymore. I love Crawford, but it's just not. It's just not a good matchup for him. I hate to say that now, but it's not a good matchup for him. And for Israel, personally, I want to see him fight Charlo. I think that
I would like that fight. I like that fight. That's a great call there.
I think Charlo wants to go back down to 154. He still thinks he's champion. Fight Israel. I think that's a great way. I don't think Crawford will go right into fighting Charlo. Granted, he'll welcome it, but I think Crawford might go to Fedora since the Spence fight is out. I think he'll go that route just so he could collect more belts. I think that he'll be. Would he be undisputed? Or no. I think there'll be another belt he's missing.
Yeah, there'll be 2 more belts he'll be missing, but I think that overall, yeah, I mean he definitely has options now, right? But I don't know the Canelo option is going to happen anytime soon.
Oh, I think the Canelo. I think that's dead. I think that now, granted, Crawford is not shooting it down, but when they interviewed him, he didn't sound like he really cared that much for it anymore. He was just like, money talks. So if you pay me, once fighters start saying that, that means they not that interested. Because what they gonna say if they want the fight, they gonna say, hell yeah, bro, I want you right now. That's what they say. Anything else is more so, let me be undisputed at 154 first. And then maybe we'll see how that go. But, he didn't look as strong because he's going against stronger guys. That's something that you just can't mimic, something you just can't deal with on the fly. But he fought one of the best 154 pounders, and he looked good. I don't think people got to understand, Crawford's getting older, but at the same time, he's going up in weight. There's a reason why we pay so much respect to Pacquiao. There's a reason why we got so much respect for Floyd. And why we got so much respect for Roy Jones. Going up in weight is hard. There's a reason why there's 10 pounds, 7 pounds. Yeah. There's a reason why there's like those little bit of weight changes. Why? Because it's difficult. It's a magnificent difference. So for him to do that and now collect another belt just adds to his all-time greatness. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think it changes my pound-for-pound rankings. I still think that Terence is proving that he is a pound-for-pound number one by going up in weight and challenging himself. So, respects to him.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this from who? Conor McGregor, right? So, we got to give the champions credit. Crawford is fighting for legacy now. He has all the money in the world. So, we'll see what happens.
Boots is not getting that fight, so move on. Boots, you're not getting the fight. I said, Boots, you're not getting the fight.
I wouldn't petition it if it's not going to happen. If it does happen, kudos to him, and that'll be a crazy fight to watch.
It would be a fun fight to watch for sure, but like Terence said, he ain't interested in it. So unfortunately, unless the only way, if Boots really want the fight, he's unfortunately going to have to go to 154, get a belt, and then he'll get the fight. Until then, if he really wants Bud. But if you don't really want Bud, you're going to just keep him at 147 because he's not going back down.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool fight too. I know age is something I've been preaching is not just a number, but 35 to 37, you can definitely still say you're in your prime. Crawford is showing that. So, but the Crawford Boots fight is just a fight that it just would make so much more sense if Crawford was around Boots' age.
If it was 4 years ago, for sure, we will all be clamoring for it. Right now, it's just, and the same thing kind of you can say for Canelo though, because they're not too far apart in age. Canelo's also looking for legacy fights. That's why he's not that interested in Benavidez, even though that is the fight to make. So,
exactly. Crawford and Boots is the fight to make, if you want to be honest.
No, you're right.
I would love to see them at like a 152, 151, street fight.
No, that's facts. That's facts. But unfortunately, that's not what we're gonna get because that's unfortunately how boxing works sometimes. But yet and still, man, I'm super excited, man. I'm so happy that these fights panned out. That fight was a chess match, but it wasn't a boring chess match. And the reason why it wasn't a boring chess match is because the punches that land did hurt. It started off a little slow and also was kind of late. So I know people were getting a little restless. But the fight was actually fun. Wasn't the best fight of the night, but it still was a great fight. I thought Bud came out the fight, and Israel gained a lot of new fans personally because I know for a fact I'm watching his next fight. I got to see how good he is, and he looks very good. So I'm super excited with the card. Any final things before we head out?
No, I think you said it best, and I feel the same way too. I don't think it was the craziest good fight, but it was a quality fight. It's definitely a quality win. And to your last point, which is really what I was getting at, is yeah, I think Israel really gained some fans. I think that he also gained some future opponents. I think some guys look at him now and say, "Hey, if I can beat this guy, it'll be a nice notch on my record, knowing that this guy did so well against Terence Crawford."
And it gives you more of an incentive to fight him and beat him, and convincingly beat him because of what happened. That's what another reason why I think Charlo's a good matchup. Charlo goes out there and he says, "Oh, I can knock this dude out," something that Crawford can't do, and then does it, brother. Now imagine him knocking out Israel. Now you got Charlo versus Crawford. That is a mega fight. We already know that they don't like each other, genuinely do not like each other. And then you have the undisputed champion who never lost his belt at 154 going against Crawford, who literally just beat his boy, who knocked out his boy, and then also been talking all that noise for about 4 or 5 years now. Bruh, that's money. Money.
Yeah, I mean, from 130 to 154, there's a lot of hot fights. So in that 154, what's funny about that division is like we just don't know. Like, is Charlo coming back? Like, all these different things. So there's a lot to be seen. And we have a new champion, and his name's Terrence Crawford. But
he seems to be here for right now. He ain't here for a long time, but he's here for a good time. So
they say.
Yes, sir. All right, so as always, man, make sure y'all follow us on social media. Josh, what is our Twitter handle?
At Josh's Fight Forum. Feel free to mention us, slide in our DMs, tell a friend to talk to us, whatever you want. We're ready.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it, man. We're gonna keep on trying to be as consistent as possible. Boxing, I think we're gonna be a little slowish as far as fights go for the next few weeks. So I mean, we're gonna still come up with more content. We're gonna be doing some dream matchups. Might do some fight reviews. And who knows, man. If you got some, you also got some options and things you want us to talk about. Make sure you leave it in the comments. Whether it's an opinion, whether it's a hot take, it is what it is. Let us know. We'll love to talk it and break it down. Per usual, man. Thank you guys for joining. This is Josh. This is also Josh, and we out of here, man. Be blessed.